The first sword appeared during the Bronze Age. It was made of copper and was uncovered at the Harappan sites. By the Middle Ages, iron and steel swords were being mass-produced and used in battle. Soldiers were trained in swordsmanship and prepared for combat. It was before the era of guns and high-powered artillery, and face-to-face fighting was the norm. Here is the list of 10 most incredible swords of all time. Number 10. Tomoyuki Yamashita's sword. Tomoyuki Yamashita was an Imperial Japanese Army general during World War II. He became known during the war, after conquering the British colonies of Malaya and Singapore. During his military career, Tomoyuki Yamashita owned a personal sword that contained a blade manufactured by famous sword maker Fujiwara Kananaga, sometime between 1640 and 1680. When Tomoyuki was tried for war crimes and executed, General Douglas MacArthur took the sword and gave it to the West Point Military Museum, where it has stayed to this day. Number 9. Curved Saber of San Martin. José de San Martin was a famous Argentine general. He was the primary leader of the southern part of South America's struggle for independence from Spain. San Martin is a South American hero and first protector of Peru. One of the most cherished of José de San Martin was a curved sword that he purchased in London. San Martin admired the saber's curved blade and felt that weapon was maneuverable and ideal for battle. For this reason he armed his cavalries of granadieros with similar weapons, which he deemed important for charge attacks. The curved sword stayed with San Martin until his death, and was then passed down to the General de Republica Argentina, Don Juan de Rosas. Number 8. Seven-branched sword. The seven-branched sword is a sword of continental manufacture believed to be identical with the artifact of that name, a present of the King of Beck that was bestowed upon a Yamata ruler, as a present who is mentioned in the Nihon Shoki, in the 52nd year of the reign of the semi-mythical Empress Jing-U. It is a 74.9 centimeters long iron sword, with 6 branch-like protrusions along the central blade. The original sword has been conserved since antiquity in the Isinokami Shrine, in Nara Prefecture, Japan, and is not on public display. An inscription on the side of the blade is an important source for understanding the relationships between kingdoms of the Korean Peninsula and Japan in that period. The seven-branched sword contains many statements, but the most controversial involves the phrase in Lord use describing the king of was a possible subservient to the Beck ruler. Number 7. WALLACE sword. The Wallace sword is an antique two-handed sword purported to have belonged to William Wallace, a Scottish knight who led a resistance to the English occupation of Scotland during the Wars of Scottish Independence. It is said to have been used by William Wallace at the Battle of Stirling Bridge in 1297 and the Battle of Falkirk. The blade of the sword measures 4 feet 4 inches in length, and including the hilt is 5 feet 4 inches. The breadth of the blade varies from 2.25 inches at the guard to 0.75 inches before the point. The sword weighs 5.95 pounds. Number 6. TIZONA sword. TIZONA is a sword that was used by El Cid to fight against Moors. The weapons is one of Spain's most cherished relics, and is believed to have been forged in Córdoba, Spain. Although considerable amount of Damascus steel can be found in its blade. Damascus steel was primarily used in the Middle East. TIZONA is 103 centimeters long and weighs 1.1 kilogram. It contains 2 separate inscriptions, with one listing a manufacture date of 1002 and the other quoting the Catholic prayer Ave Maria. TIZONA is currently at display at the Museo de Burgos in Spain. Number 5. Napoleon's sword. In 1799, Napoleon Bonaparte became the military and political leader of France after staging a coup d'état. 5 years later the French Senate proclaimed him emperor. In the first decade of the 19th century, Napoleon and the French Empire were engaged in conflict and war with every major European power. On the battlefield, Napoleon carried a pistol and a sword. He owned a large collection of arms and artillery. His weapons were one of a kind and included the best materials. In the summer of 2007, a gold-encrusted sword that once belonged to Napoleon was auctioned off in France for more than $6.4 million. The sword was used by Napoleon in battle. In the early 1800s, Napoleon presented the weapon to his brother as a wedding gift. The sword was passed down from generation to generation, never leaving the Bonaparte family. In 1978, the sword was declared a national treasure in France and the winner of the auction was not identified. Number 4. The Sword of Mercy. The Sword of Mercy is a famous weapon that once belonged to Edward the Confessor. Edward the Confessor was one of the last Anglo-Saxon kings of England before the Norman conquest of 1066. The Sword of Mercy has a broken blade, which is cut off short and square. In 1236, the weapon was given the name katana and has since been used for royal ceremonies. In ancient times it was a privilege to bear this sword before the king. It was considered a merciful gesture. The story surrounding the breaking of the weapon is unknown, but mythological history indicates that the tip was broken off by an angel to prevent a wrongful killing. The Sword of Mercy is part of the crown jewels of the United Kingdom and is one of only 5 swords used during the coronation of the British monarch. Number 3. Zulfiqar. Zulfiqar is the ancient sword of the Islamic leader Ali. Ali was the cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad. He ruled over the Islamic Caliphate from 656 to 661. By some historical accounts, Muhammad gave Zulfiqar to Ali at the Battle of Uhud. Muhammad admired Ali's power and strength on the battlefield and wanted to present him with the cherished weapon. The sword is a symbol of the Islamic faith and is admired by millions of people. The Zulfiqar is a scimitar, which refers to a West Asian or South Asian sword with a curved blade. It is said that Ali used the sword at the Battle of the Trench, which is a famous siege attempt on the city of Medina. Number 2, HONJO MASAMUNE sword. Masamune was a Japanese swordsmith that is widely regarded as one of the world's greatest metallurgists. The exact dates for Masamune's life are unknown, but it is believed that he worked from 1288 to 1328. Masamune's weapons have reached legendary status over the centuries. He created swords known as taki and daggers. The swords of Masamune have a strong reputation for superior beauty and quality. He rarely signed his works, so it can be hard to positively identify all his weapons. The most famous of all Masamune swords is named HONJO MASAMUNE. The HONJO MASAMUNE is so important because it represented the shogunate during the Edo period of Japan. The sword was passed down from one shogun to another for generations. In 1939 the weapon was named a national treasure in Japan, but remained in the Ki branch of the Tokugawa family. The last known owner of HONJO MASAMUNE was Tokugawa Ieyasu. Apparently Tokugawa Ieyasu gave the weapon and 14 other swords to a police station, in Majuro, Japan, in December of 1945. Shortly thereafter in January 1946, the Majuro police gave the swords to Sergeant Cole D. Bymore. Since that time, the HONJO MASAMUNE has gone missing and the whereabouts of the sword remains a mystery. Number 1, Joyeuse. Joyeuse is the name of Charlemagne's personal sword. Today, there are 2 swords attributed to Joyeuse. One is a SABER that is kept in the Weltliche Schatzkammer in Vienna, while the other is housed at the Louvre in France. The blade on display at the Louvre claims to be partially built from Charlemagne's original sword. The sword is made of parts from different centuries, so it can be hard to positively identify the weapon as Joyeuse. The hilt of the sword indicates a manufacture date around the time of Charlemagne. The heavily sculpted gold pommel is made in 2 halves and the long gold grip was once decorated with diamonds. Charlemagne's sword appears in many legends and historical documents. Bulfinch's mythology described Charlemagne using Joyeuse to behead the Saracen commander Korsibel as well as to knight his friend Ogier the Dane. After the death of Charlemagne, the sword was said to have been contrarily held by the Saint Denis Basilica and it was later taken to the Louvre after being carried at a coronation processional for French kings. If you enjoyed the video, it would be great if you like, share and subscribe to our channel for more amazing and informative videos.